I'm getting real, y'all. I'm getting personal, y'all, today. I am going to be telling you about an argument that I had this week with my husband. My husband, who is an amazing guy. Love him. We've been together for uh, more than 30 years. I had to think about that for a second. It's more than 30 years. And that's real years, not dog years. But I wanted to tell you about an argument. Now, if you were to ask me, what was the argument really about? Now, with this benefit of space and time, I probably really couldn't tell you what it was we're arguing about. He came and he told me something about this said thing that I just shared that will be launching soon on Worthy, which I'm so excited about. And he was giving me an idea, suggestion, his interpretation of how I could be doing things different, or better is the word that he used. And it set me off. I was so mad, like mad as in like can't breathe mad, like yelling mad, like mad, so mad that I didn't speak to him for the rest of the day, didn't speak to him the next day. And yes, so mad that when we went to bed, it was, if you have a partner, you have that, this is your side, stay on your side. Like that's how mad I was because how dare he? He has not obviously watched. There's, I don't know if any of you remember what was the film with Patrick Swayze? Dirty Dancing, right? And remember there's a scene where he walks in and he says, nobody puts a baby in the corner. That's how I felt. Like, how dare you come in here and try and put me in the corner? You do not put me in a corner. This is my business, this is my thing. And I got all mad. So I went to bed, didn't speak to each other. Next morning, I get up. Now, my everyday practice is I get up in the morning and I do meditation. Okay. It is very hard to be, and this is meant to be, right? Meditation is meant to be you being zen and at peace and one with yourself. Hard to be zen and at peace and one with yourself when you woke up. So I went to bed mad and then I woke up. And as soon as I woke up, I was like, oh yeah, I'm mad and he was wrong and all of the things. So yes, I was mad. And so I go to do my meditation. It's very hard to be peaceful when you're mad. And so all I could think the whole time I'm sitting there is like, I am so mad and he is so wrong. But I'm meant to be peaceful. I am so mad and he is so wrong. Breathe. I'm meant to be peaceful. This was not coming together for me. Then I remembered, which I had allowed myself to forget in that moment. I remembered something that I had learned in my meditation teacher training. So I'm a certified meditation teacher. And one of the things that we had learned was the fact that everything is here to help you learn and to grow. Every experience, everything that you go through, good, bad, and different. And oftentimes when bad things happen or things that make us angry, we want to just be in our feelings of the anger and the hurt and the disappointment. And yet we miss the opportunity to look for the lesson. So I'm sitting there fighting with myself about how I need to be zen and how I need to be at peace. And what I came back to, and it's actually really interesting that this is what came to me, is a book that I read as part of my meditation teacher training. And for those of you who are in the space of meditation and mindfulness, his name is one that you're familiar with. And he actually passed away a few days ago. And so it's a name that you'll be familiar with. His name is Thich Nhat Hanh. And he's a Buddhist monk who has a whole organization that is all about teaching mindfulness and teaching meditation. And I came back to this book. This is my favorite of all of his books. It is called No Mud, No Lotus by Thich Nhat Hanh. And in it, the subtitle of this book is The Art of Transforming Suffering. And I remembered something that I had learned when we were going through meditation teacher training and we were reading this book. And it's what he referred to, the way that I understood it and the way that I paraphrase it is he said that, there is no pain is inevitable. So in life, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. And I remember reading this and not understanding, like, what does he mean that pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice? And I want to read you a really small excerpt from the book, like literally it's really early on in the book. And in it, he says, we all want to be happy. And there are many books and teachers in the world that try to help people be happier. Yet we all continue to suffer. Therefore, we may think that we're doing it wrong. Somehow we're failing at happiness. And that isn't true. Being able to enjoy happiness doesn't require that we have zero suffering. In fact, the art of happiness is also the art of suffering well. It's such a beautiful book. And as you can see, it's a really short read. It's super quick. But what I learned from this is exactly what my meditation teacher training was about, which is mindfulness. Because oftentimes, like in my situation when I was mad, like I literally was seething, I was so angry, was that because I was in my emotions of being angry, I couldn't hear what he was saying. I couldn't allow myself to regulate, to be able to maybe look at what he's saying and say, is there any truth in what he's saying? Is there an opportunity for me to do something different, for me to be different? For maybe does he have a point? Maybe he doesn't have a point. And what I also recognized, now this was with the gift of, I went into my meditation the day after, and because, of course, I've learned the fact that everything has a lesson and everything will teach you something if you just give it the space to allow. What I also learned about, especially from that situation, was it was one of the few times that the next day I didn't go into the judgment of myself. So in the past, I would have got angry, been mad, yelled, screamed, whatever, gone to bed, still felt like I was right, would not have gone and been waiting for him to apologize. Then we'd have this standoff until I guess one of us gave in. But none of us would have learned the lesson. I certainly would not have learned the lesson. And so what I was reminded of is the fact that you cannot be in judgment of your emotions and learn from them. And so from a starting perspective, I had to go to, okay, in that moment, why was I so triggered by what he'd said? What was it that he said that made me so mad, so angry? And to really examine that. And what I've learned is that when you're angry, anger is a really quick emotion to go to. It's a surface level. It's like right there bubbling, and it's an easy emotion to reach for. What's more difficult to reach for is what's underneath the anger. Because the anger is telling you there's something underneath it. And so for me, it was some level of insecurity within myself. I'm doing something new. I'm doing something I've never done before. So I feel some anxiety, some anxiousness. I'm second guessing myself. And that comment just brought that to the surface, that anxiety of, oh, am I good enough? Is this going to be good enough? And so I reached for the anger when really what I was feeling was the insecurity of what I'm doing. And so that I would never have had that realization until I learned that sit with it and examine it with no judgment. Because I would have been judging myself that, well, you know better, you're a coach and you tell people this, like, why did you get angry? You shouldn't have got angry. You didn't regulate yourself. All of the things. I could have beaten myself up. But I allowed myself to look at it from a place of zero judgment, not judging myself, asking the question, being curious. Why did I get angry? Why was I so triggered by what he'd said? And in that trigger, in allowing myself to sit with the discomfort of what I'd done and how I'd reacted, that's where the lesson was that, oh, what really he triggered was your feeling of insecurity, the fact that you're feeling unsure of yourself, the fact that you're second guessing yourself. And he was just in that moment, the mirror that held that up to me. But I would never have got that if I hadn't sat with it. And that's a really key thing, that oftentimes we beat ourselves up for our responses, for our reaction. You're human. You will react. And what I hope for myself is the lesson that I can take away from this is, okay, the next time that I feel like I'm getting triggered, instead of immediately going to the anger, can I take a pause? It's one of the things that, I'm telling you about Thich Nhat Hanh and this book. It's one of the things that he talks about is coming to your breath and how your breath is your power. Because when you allow yourself to pause and take a breath, then you have the opportunity to bring yourself back into your body, bring yourself back into your awareness, and to ask, why is this triggering me? Something a mentor of mine, one of my mentors is Jim Fortin. And Jim says, no one ever triggers you. You trigger yourself. And that took me a while to learn that no one ever triggers you. So when you're in traffic and someone cuts you off and you're like, horrible person, or when someone says something to you and you're triggered, what they're really doing is holding up a mirror to some part of you that feels hurt, anger, pain, insecurity, whatever that feeling is. That's what's happening. Because if you're 100% solid in your foundation of your belief, they wouldn't trigger you. If some random person called you on the phone and you answered your phone and they're like, you're an idiot and I hate you and I'm never going to talk to you again, you'd kind of be like, oh, that person must be having a bad day. And you'd put the phone down. Because it doesn't really matter to you. You don't know them. You don't care what they have to say. But if there's something that they say to you that touches, it's almost like having a scab, an emotional scab, and someone comes and pulls the scab off. That's what your emotions are telling you when you're triggered. That's what it's telling you is there's some unresolved emotion in the past that you need to get a hold of, that you need to understand, that you need to make peace with. And one of the beautiful things, going back to this book, No Mud, No Lotus from Thich Nhat Hanh, is what he says is to welcome in those feelings, to welcome it in when you feel the discomfort of whatever it is, to welcome it in without judgment and ask it, like literally have a conversation with the emotion and say, what are you here to show me? What are you here to teach me? And to approach it from a place of non-judgment, from a place of self-compassion, from a place of self-love. And so I wanted to share that story with you because even though I've been doing this work for a while, I still struggle. I still have days where I lose my bleep and I get mad and angry and things hurt me or I feel unsure about myself. And that example where my husband said something that in his mind, he was giving me constructive criticism. The only thing I heard was the criticism because at some level, at some subconscious level, I had a belief about what he was telling me that was insecure. I wasn't solid in what I was doing. And I would never have known that. I would have just stayed in the anger if I hadn't allowed myself to release the judgment, release the self-judgment, and ask, what are you here to teach me? And I wanted to say to you that one of the greatest things that I have learned is that oftentimes we hold ourselves apart from the things that we want because we judge ourselves. And the greatest, which is why I've created a whole platform that is focused on this message, is the fact that we don't feel worthy. We feel like we don't deserve to have the things that we want. And yet, the very fact that you exist, you existing, you taking breath in this moment, makes you worthy to be, to do, to have anything that your heart desires. Let go of judgment. Let go of self-judgment and get curious about what life is showing you.